Stand by, folks. I was running out of time. That's why we pushed it back to 11:55. And I got the paper coming hot off the presses. This one's going to be a doozy. You're going to want to stick around for this. Welcome to Eyes to See. That's loud. Hopefully it's just as loud for you. The vision. What is up with my sound here? Check, check, check. Am I getting sick? Something sounds off. Anyway, it must be a sign. So, welcome to Eyes to See. This show I do on politics and current events, I try and do it weekly. If you're interested in any sort of patriotism on the July 4th, go back to July 3rd and 4th and look at those two episodes because I am very proud of them. They are very good. This one, I tried to make equally as good, but I didn't have a whole lot of time. So I rushed it out. We'll get her done. The topic tonight is the murder of Charlie Kirk. As you know, this is a politics and current events show, and nothing more current and political than the Charlie Kirk assassination. Now, I'm just going to read the paper first to get what I've written out there, and then we'll go off the cuff, as they say. And I think we might go a lot of places that you don't expect. So stick around to the end. Make sure you like and subscribe. Burp, 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 burp. That's the YouTube chatterbox nonsense. Ooh, I didn't put a title in it. What would I title it? The Trial of the Century. Tonight, we're going to go deep in discussing the murder of Charlie Kirk and the case against Tyler Robinson. Robinson is charged with aggravated murder in Utah. In the current preliminary hearing, prosecutors are presenting DNA evidence, communications, video material, and statements tied to Lance Twiggs, Robinson's former roommate and same-sex romantic partner. Twiggs has reportedly been granted use immunity for statements he gave to authorities and has not been charged. Robinson's defense is already challenging many parts of the evidence, including the reliability of the DNA work and the public handling of witness statements. The preliminary hearing is the first serious public test of the state's case against Tyler Robinson. That is the official surface of the matter. A man was murdered in public. Another man has been accused. The state says the case is open and shut and that they can prove the case beyond any doubt. The defense says that many parts of the case are weaker than they look. The court will decide whether there is enough evidence to move forward in this preliminary hearing. That much can be said without disagreement. The country has not been that careful, however. Two camps formed almost immediately. One camp says the official account is basically settled because the police, the FBI, the prosecutors, and the court have named Robinson. They want the rest of us to stand down, stand back, let the family grieve, and stop asking questions that might muddy Charlie's legacy. In that camp, suspicion is treated less like a mistake and more like a sin. Questioning the case gets framed as attacking the widow, dishonoring Charlie, helping his enemies, or even turning your back on God. Those accusations may sound morally serious, but they do not answer any questions. They change the subject. A widow's grief deserves tenderness for sure, and Charlie's family deserves decency, of course. But grief cannot be used as a substitute for evidence. It cannot turn police claims into proven facts. Grief cannot move the burden of proof from the state onto the citizen who notices something strange or suspicious. Emotional pressure may work on social media, in church circles, or inside frightened political tribe, but it has no authority inside the legal proceedings where law, raw logic, reason, proof, and evidence reign supreme. If the case is true, prove it. No need to sanctify it. A murder trial is not a memorial service. In court, evidence has to hold. Witnesses have to be tested. Forensics have to survive all levels of scrutiny. Timelines have to make sense. If the state's case is true, it should not need emotional blackmail to protect it. The people saying don't ask questions may think they are defending Charlie, but they are really defending a procedure from scrutiny before the procedure has earned any trust. The other camp sees many strange pieces and already believes the official story is false. They look at the political usefulness of the murder, the gaps in the public explanation, the behavior of the witnesses, the handling of evidence, and the broader climate around war, Israel, Iran, American intelligence. They believe Robinson is not the whole story. Some believe Twiggs knows more than he has said publicly. Some believe both of them may be patsies. Some believe the fingerprints look less like a lone young man and more like a managed operation. That camp may be asking better questions, but suspicion still has to submit to hard evidence. A bad investigation does not automatically prove a covert black ops operation. A strange roommate does not automatically prove an intelligence plot. A sealed filing does not automatically prove a cover-up. Government agencies self-admittedly have lied before. Intelligence agencies have run operations, manipulated assets with handlers, hidden evidence, and have discarded disposable people. Anyone who says that never happens, well, I have a bridge for sale. But on the other hand, history does not give us permission to turn instinct into a verdict. If the official story should not be treated like scripture, neither should the counter story. A person can reject state worship without joining a rumor cult. Candace, Tucker. That distinction matters here because both camps are trying to make doubt illegal, but in their own way. I am not standing in either camp tonight. I am down in the bottom of the chasm that separates the two, looking up at both sides, and I do not like what I see. One side wants obedience to authority. The other side can become so suspicious of the official story that every odd detail starts looking like confirmation. One side says, accept the process. The other says, the process itself is the crime. One side treats questions as betrayal. The other treats suspicion as gospel. Both habits can blind a person, just in opposite directions. This show is called Eyes to See, not because we see everything clearly. No one does. Anyone who claims to perfect... let's back up. Man, I just trashed that, didn't I? In case we need to do a short, let's start over. This show is called Eyes to See, not because we see everything clearly. No one does. Anyone who claims perfect sight in a case like this is either lying to you or lying to himself. The purpose is to cultivate the kind of sight that can look at an official story without bowing to it, and look at a counter story without worshiping it. Eyes that can notice holes without rushing to fill them with fantasy. Eyes that can notice holes with... Eyes that can recognize the tactics people use when they don't have proof. Appeal to emotion, guilt by association, loaded language, false dilemma, appeal to authority, and all the little moral traps that try to make a man feel wicked for asking a reasonable question. These fallacies do not always tell you what the truth is, but they very often tell you where someone is trying to steer you away from the truth. Eyes that can respect grief without allowing grief to become a muzzle. Eyes that can pursue truth without needing the truth to flatter the camp we already prefer. That kind of sight is not automatic. It has to be trained. And in cases like this, are where the training gets serious. I want to put is, but it's plural. Yeah, let's change that. It has to be trained. And in a case like this, and it's a case like this where the training gets serious. Charlie Kirk spent his public life arguing and debating in the open. He challenged cultural dogma. He invited opposition. He stood in front of hostile audiences and took many questions. Whether a person loved him or hated him, that was part of his public method. To honor that legacy by forbidding questions is absurd. It's more than absurd. It's perverse. It's like honoring a fireman by banning water. If Charlie's name is now being used to shame people away from asking what really happened to him, then his legacy is already being mishandled. Justice requires pressure. The state should and does have to prove that Tyler Robinson acted alone if that is their claim. The state should have to explain what Lance Twiggs knew, when he knew it, how he was involved, and why he was given immunity. It should have to explain the evidence in plain enough terms that ordinary citizens can follow the logic without being told to sit down and just trust the experts. The state should have to show how the communications, the weapon, the DNA, the timeline, the motive, and the witness statements fit seamlessly together. If the pieces fit, then show us. If they do not fit, no amount of patriotic grief should be used to hammer them into place. A patsy is the fall guy. The word belongs to the old language of scams, mobs, politics, and street-level manipulation. A sucker placed where the blame can be landed like a 747. He may have done nothing. He may have done something. He may have been flattered, steered, threatened, paid, handled, or simply allowed to walk into the frame. Literally, the word framing somebody comes from that. The point is not that the patsy is always innocent. The point is that he becomes useful because he gives the public a face to blame. He may be innocent. He may be guilty of something smaller than the crime placed on him. He may be unstable, compromised, manipulated, or disposable. The public gets a name, a photograph, a motive, and a story simple enough to repeat. The harder questions get pushed into the fog behind him. That's why the word matters here. It does not mean Robinson is innocent. It does not mean Twiggs is guilty. It means the public should understand how a patsy story works before it decides whether Robinson is the whole story, a piece of the story, or merely the face planted in front of it. Lee Harvey Oswald became the American template for this. He was accused of killing President Kennedy, then immediately killed the next day before he could stand trial. The Warren Commission later concluded that Oswald acted alone, while the House Select Committee on Assassinations concluded years later that Kennedy was most likely assassinated as a result of a conspiracy. That does not prove every theory about JFK. It proves something narrower and more useful. Official closure in a political assassination can be wrong, incomplete, or too neat to deserve blind trust. Political murder attracts power. Every interested faction tries to make the blood say what it once said. Prosecutors want a clean case. Media outlets want a clean narrative. Political groups want more moral leverage. Foreign interests may want confusion when confusion helps them, and clarity when clarity helps them. Families want the grief to stop being public property. The accused wants a defense, and the public wants an answer before the evidence has finished arriving. Under that kind of pressure, truth can get bent by people who think they're protecting something noble. Families are splitting over this. Friends are turning on each other. People who agreed on nearly everything last month now look at each other as traitors, cowards, dupes, or lunatics. The right is tearing itself open, whether asking questions is an act of loyalty or betrayal. The people who spent years saying they distrust the government now demand trust in the government because the case is emotionally painful. Other people who spent years demanding evidence now leap 3 steps past the evidence because the official story smells wrong. Both reactions are understandable, but neither is good enough. If the case against Robinson is strong, let it be strong in daylight. If Twiggs is merely a witness, let that withstand cross-examination and public scrutiny. If the DNA work is sound, let the defense test it and fail. If the communications prove motive and action, let them be examined carefully. If the prosecution can tie the case together, it should tie it together without threats, shaming, or theatrical demands for unity. And if the case is weak, incomplete, or managed, then the public has a duty to be notified. The word conspiracy has become a leash. It gets snapped onto people the moment they ask a question that makes someone uncomfortable. But conspiracy is not fairy tale category. People conspire. Criminals conspire. Officials conspire. Agencies have conspired. Courts exist partly because human beings commit coordinated acts and then lie about them. The question is not whether conspiracy is possible. The question is whether the evidence proves one here. That standard protects us from the person who says the government said it, so stop asking. And it also protects us from the person who says the government said it, so it must be false. A serious citizen should be harder to herd than that. Tonight, I'm not asking anyone to accept the state's account. I'm also not asking anyone to accept the most dramatic alternative account. I am asking for disciplined suspicion, the kind that keeps asking questions without pretending every question is already an answer. It respects grief without allowing grief to become a gag order. It knows governments can lie, witnesses can lie, defendants can lie, activists can lie, and our own instincts can lie too. Charlie Kirk was murdered. Tyler Robinson is accused. Lance Twiggs is a central witness with immunity. The state says it has evidence. The defense says parts of that evidence should not be trusted the way prosecutors want it trusted. That is just enough to justify attention. It is not enough to justify obedience. If the state can prove Robinson acted alone, then prove it. If the story is larger, then let it be exposed. Until then, no widow, no prosecutor, no influencer, no intelligence agency, no pundit, no pastor, and no mob gets to tell free men that asking what happened is a betrayal of the dead. The end. This one hits home for many reasons. It's driven a wedge of torment into my life with another who I thought the same as me on everything. It's a strange thing because I never really... I was emotionally upset when Charlie Kirk died. Was assassinated. Or something crazy happened because we don't see him anymore. But the idea that he was shot in the neck in front of a crowd of 3,000 people talking about ideas broke me. And there I cried a lot. And I don't even know why. Mainly because, to me, while I wasn't a religious follower of Charlie Kirk, his life was up there in terms of being honored. And I would say you got God, Jesus, Moses, Abraham, and Charlie Kirk. Notice I didn't say Trump. Trump has his place, but it's not on that list. The problem is Charlie had Trump. He was like a son to Trump. Do you ever stop to ask yourself why the assassination attempt in Butler was never questioned? It was immediately mopped up, swept under the rug. But one might say, well, they tried to assassinate a candidate for president. They assumed that if he was assassinated, he would not be president. But in a twist of God's comedy, we'll say, he was wounded, but not assassinated, and he became president. So one might think that now that he's president, he would want to look into all the evidence, what really happened with that case in Butler. But he hasn't. It's as if it never happened. He doesn't talk about it. He doesn't ask the Department of Justice to brief him on what happened. Maybe they already did. You see, the governments are powerful, and we live in one of the most powerful governments of all time. There is a facade of truth on the surface, but it's built on actual truth. This country was founded with moral principles, and anyone that knows anything about any part of the world knows that corruption reigns supreme and is assumed. It is, what's the word? It's just life. That's just how it is. I think Mexico. If you don't know Mexico corruption, go visit. If you have enough money, you can buy your way out of anything. And you might say, well, you can do that in the U.S. But let me tell you this, no. The U.S. is one of the last and only countries where corruption has to be hidden. You ever tried to bribe a cop in the U.S.? It doesn't work. You can bribe a cop in Mexico with 20 pesos. That's like $2. Actually, I don't know the exchange rate anymore. Corruption doesn't reign supreme in the U.S. We have to hide it. And it may be thick in the swamp of D.C., running beneath the surface. And we might see, trust me, there's nothing more I hate than corruption. Lies and untruth. That's why we're here, to find out the truth. Not about this case, but about everything. Don't bullshit me. I came up hearing arguments from people that didn't hold water. Maybe it was that I was blessed with an ability to see through fallacies. And there is no more greater joy, or it's one of the greatest joys that I have, is studying fallacies. I literally have books on them. Because the tactics that people use, whether conscious or not, are designed to distort the truth to their own narrative. And that's why we're here. Vision beyond narrative. I don't care about your story. I only care about the truth. Let me give my son as an example. When caught doing something he knew was wrong, he has a tendency to explain it away, to argue it away, as all kids do, right? And I've been absolutely focused on teaching him that your words are more powerful than a sword. That's what joy I get in this doing these shows, is because I sharpen my sword every time I write a paper. Sharpen my mind and get the ideas out there to call things what they are. And I tell him, stop. Stop trying to manipulate. Stop trying to distort. Stop trying to persuade. Just say what is. You're right, Dad. I did take the phone, and it's probably because I really addicted to playing these video games. That's the truth. But you know how a kid can manipulate that. I can't stand it. And I see it in all people. Hell, I even made a course where one big section of one module of the entire course is based on how humans are bad at making good decisions. To me, this world is a fallen world that in its purpose would have looked a lot different, having not been corrupted. Truth would reign supreme, and there would be no lie. Life would be eternal, and there would be no destruction or death. Some might say that's what God had planned. But we know, before you berate the story of Adam and Eve and the serpent, know that it is bigger than you. It's more powerful than you, and every aspect of those stories are. So for those of you that berate that, get behind me, Satan. The story is simple. God told Adam and Eve, you may eat of any tree in the fruit, any fruit of the tree in this garden, except one. Do not eat the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because in doing so you will surely die. I've given you all this perfection, and I tell you, choose to obey me and do not eat from that tree. Now you got people like Joe Rogan saying, you know what, I think the tree of deception, or what do they call it? I think the tree in the Bible is like a mushroom. It's got to be like an amanita. I hate, so sick of hearing him say, I mean, I love Joe Rogan like nobody else, but I am so sick of him trying to think that psychedelics are some fucking amazing thing. They are amazing and fucking powerful, no doubt. But they're also very damaging. And to think that they're the answer, you might say, well, a lot of this new psychedelic stuff is blah, blah, blah. It's really helping people with PTSD and all these things. Maybe so. Maybe so, but I've been there. And I know it is not a place that I ever want to go back. Now, everybody's minds work differently. Mine is pretty hot. It runs a little hot. So things like that, they take me way too far. I'm already halfway there on my own. But when you go way too far, and you know that you're locked into an eternity, you look around you and you say, if I get out of this and I remember 1% of this, I'm going to have to kill myself because what I remember will be too much to bear. To me, that's like the devil saying, hey, look what I have. I have a fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. What happens if you don't have the knowledge of good and evil? Are you just ignorant? Are you... Ah, man, I wish I had all those words right there. Stupid? No, you're not. You're alive. And you're living in peace and harmony. And if you don't know what it looks like, look at a child. When they are at their highest level of joy. That child shows you what it's like to be in a state of mind that does not know the knowledge, does not have the knowledge of good and evil. And to some degree, we're all on that spectrum. And some of us have seen the darkness of evil, actual evil, the threshold, the doorstep of fucking hell itself. We fought the demons. Not alone, but we fought. And anybody that's been there knows to treat evil as the power it is. It will kill. It will steal. It will devour and it will destroy. There's no doubt about it. I've seen it. And thank God I was spared from it. As the sirens ring in the distance. I live in a town where Halloween is worshipped as the high holy day, where everyone celebrates evil. They love it. To some, it's like, what's the big deal? I like putting up skulls and skeletons and witches and black widows and black cats and... Okay, because they don't mean anything, right? It's just decoration. It's just for fun. It's just we dress up. We just dress like hookers. I mean, when else am I going to get to dress like a hooker? But Halloween. Typically, I am out of town hunting elk on Halloween. And I remove myself from the darkness. Because the words, forgive them, they know not what they do, come into play here. This town times 2, times 4, times 10 worships Halloween and evil more than I've ever seen. Anywhere. I go to Mexico a lot. I see the graveyards, Dia de los Muertos, the flowers, the reverence for the dead, the voodoo shit, Santa Maria or something like that. Yeah, there's evil down there. But it's not like this. This is a justified celebration of evil. And you got to think that if somebody really knows what evil is, they won't celebrate it. The voices of those trapped in eternal psychotic state cry out. Death is not sweet. Death is not good. Don't celebrate death. Because death is the manifestation of the devil. So, some might say that this world exists or existed in a realm of truth. And that because of the disobedience, the serpent came and he said, hey, Eve, did God really tell you not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Yeah, that's right. He told us not to. Because he said we'll surely die. Are you sure about that, Eve? God is wrong. Because he knows. Surely you won't die. Instead, you'll become like him, knowing good and evil. What do you say? Well, in that case, yeah, this fruit does look good for eating. And boom. Just like that, humanity was corrupted. Call it myth, call it actual circumstance. I don't give a shit what you call it. It is clear as day to me. I have the knowledge of good and evil, and I don't want it. Because outside of it, you just exist in good. Now, those of us with hope for the future, trust, it's called trust and faith. Have the belief, have the faith, the evidence of that which is unseen. To know that there is a purity on the other side. There can be a purity on the other side. There can be, you've heard the stories of people that have a near-death experience and it was just the most calming, peaceful feeling. Well, I believe that's what happens to those who have that sort of faith. All the baggage that you've carried your whole life, all the scars that you left on yourself and other people, all the scars that you left on the world because you were worthless and you didn't do shit. We all have them. They're purified. They come off. You move on. Moving from the womb to the world. And from the world to eternity. And in that place, there is no weeping and gnashing of teeth. There is only that peace. The calmness. The life. And the love, but you know there's another side. If you listen close to the graveyards down the road, you'll hear them crying out, weeping and gnashing of teeth. Not because they were eternally sentenced to go over here, no, because they chose not to accept the truth. Jesus came and said, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. What do you mean, Lord? We don't know the truth. What are you talking about? We don't know the truth. Sure, you've seen me, right? I am the truth, the way, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but through me. What? What are you talking about? How does that happen? Well, dense disciples, let me explain it a little more clearly. I am God in human form, and I have come here to teach the world, to transform the world, to redeem the world. So here I am. And the deceiver, the prince of darkness, the evil one, he doesn't like me. He's as jealous as anything could be jealous of me. Because I am also the Son of God. And he was, we'll say, God's best friend at one time, and then got a little too cocky for his britches. He got kicked out. And ever since he's been kicked out, he's been pretty pissed off. And he wants to destroy everything good, true. And if you don't see that, like, how do we describe those eyes? There is good and evil, and there is a battle, and it happens nonstop. And it happens here in situations like this, where there is truth and there is falsities, fallacies. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to get to the even bottom of this, but I'm saying the camp I'm in has my sights on something bigger than this case. Charlie lived his life assuming he's dead. Some people claim he's not. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that Charlie is gone. He should be worth honoring. And you could say, I mean, the left they're like little devils. I mean, that's why it's so easy to see Lance Twiggs, Tyler Robinson fucking each other in the ass. One guy's pretending to be a girl, wearing furry costumes, and they're doing all sorts of devious, perverted activity. And you know they were former Mormons. Why? Because they said so, and they're in Utah. I think Utah is like 102% Mormon. So the repressed Mormon kids grew up and they found out that all that Mormon shit was a lie, and now they're fucking each other in the ass. Doing God knows what else. You can see them getting pissed at a man who advocates for the nuclear family, not just as a thing that's good, but as the core of society. A man that claims God is truth and wants to debate people to point out what he knows is truth, or even to learn what other people think. You can see how those two sides, Charlie doesn't hate them. Jesus didn't hate the people he came to talk to. He literally died for them because he knew that truth is very insulting, especially to those in power. They don't like truth because it exposes their corruption. It shines a mirror on their evil tendencies. And we all have them. Most of us are just not important enough for the devil to broadcast it to the world. Oh, wait. I guess he wouldn't be broadcasting. The truth will pull the veil off the cover of piety and see underneath the dead bones of corruption. The trial is going to be interesting, but it's not the biggest thing in the world, ladies and gentlemen. I have my suspicions. Too many things don't add up. I'm anxiously waiting the state to say, from A to B to C to D, these things follow. There are no gaps. We know that gun was fired because we have this evidence. We know the bullet that came out of that gun is the one that is in Charlie. Show me it all. One step after another. And take your time. Because if there's any holes, Tyler's going to go free. You know why? Because that's what patsies do. They either get killed or they get off. It does seem there's other things on that are like, if it is really the case that an intelligence agency is cooperating with TPUSA to assassinate their leader, well, that doesn't sound like that's ever happened in humanity. No. But how could it be? All these people, thousands of people, are going to have to be in on it. No, they're not. If you know how intelligence agencies operate, you don't have to be in on it. go back to where Trump doesn't want to look into Butler. Why do you think that is? I think he's suffering from the Dan Bongino effect. And if you don't know what that is, Dan Bongino was super against the corruption of the government, the corruption of the FBI, the Jeffrey Epstein files. And he went into the FBI and came out looking like he not only saw a ghost, but that ghost said he was going to bend him over and rape him. That's what he looked like. And if you think that the government can't threaten you, well, if Trump's willing to die, why won't he just say the truth? I don't think he wants to know the truth because it's too much to know. You don't think those same people threaten him? Like, look, dude, we tried. We missed. Stay in line. Or that's going to happen to your son, your family. We can remove the bloodline of you. And it doesn't have to happen in all one day. We will do it piece by piece, year by year. We will remove your bloodline from this planet. Unless you do what we say. No, I don't know if that's really going on. But that, in my opinion, is how people that are powerful and corrupt act. And we have built quite the powerful and corrupt, unelected deep state in this country. That's not a conspiracy. That's just a definition, a term. Call it what you want. The bureaucrats that run the government, CIA, FBI, all of it. They all think they're so smart. Well, we know better. We know what's right for you. The public can't hear that. Surely they won't know that. No, motherfucker. Honestly, fuck you. I want the truth. Well, you can't handle the truth. I am the truth. The truth is in me. And your falsehoods bounce off me. I feel a little sad and burdened by this situation that we've gotten ourselves into. But here is my hope and my prediction of the future. I believe that this trial is not going to go the way people think it is. I don't want to say any more than that. But if, by chance, Tyler Robinson ends up dead or acquitted and little Lance walks free and the government packages up their little story, ties a bow on it and says, darn the bad luck, we didn't get him. Maybe that's also part of it. Because you think Trump doesn't know what happened? The conspiracy is that Charlie had been changing his idea, perspective, and support for Israel. And Israel didn't like it. And Israel wanted war with Iran. And they've wanted it for 8 administrations. It's not anything new. And Trump ran on, no more wars. No never-ending wars. We're done with that shit. Iraq, Afghanistan, we're done. We're not doing that. It's bullshit. Regime change wars, no, we're done. We're bullshit. And then Charlie's there saying, you're right. We got to stay true to the MAGA agenda, which is no new wars, bring peace to the world, and stay out of other people's business. That's what Charlie was telling Trump. And Israel was telling Trump, no, we need to blast the shit out of Iran. And they came to a compromise, and Charlie yielded and said, sure, let's just bomb their nuclear facilities, and that's it, and get out and never do anything again. Hold them to account. The threat isn't as big as Israel's saying. Charlie's in Trump's ear. There is nobody that had Trump's ear more than Charlie Kirk. Not J.D. Vance, not Marco Rubio, not Pete Hegseth, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, or even, what's the guy's name on Fox? Hannity, Sean Hannity. Charlie was like a son. And if it's the case that the government came and said, listen, motherfucker, Charlie's not with you anymore. You're going to do what I say. I mean, what's the fruit of the tree here? Charlie begins to change his tune on Israel. Israel wants war with Iran. Charlie is basically the number one advisor to Trump, and Trump doesn't want war with Iran. And then Charlie is eliminated. And then there's a war with Iran. So for all of you crying out, we shouldn't be going to war with Iran. And no, don't get me wrong. I can see how Trump was persuaded into this because it is evident to me with the success that he had. And it might be that intelligence agency and that deep state is just puppet mastering him like nobody's business. And he might be, but they know how to do it. They've been practicing this shit for a long time at the highest level. I was set up to go into intelligence in the military, and thank God I didn't. But I know what it's like to some degree. They will manipulate anything and everything with an agenda on the back of their mind that they can justify. The laws don't apply. As some would say against my life, the rules don't apply. I just try and look past stupid rules sometimes. Anyway. Did I really just forget what I was talking about? Wow. I'm super distracted because I gotta pee really bad. Jay said, you turned in a wild time. Yeah, it's been a little cray-cray. Hopefully you go back to the beginning. The paper says it all. But this case, while I don't hold a whole lot of value to it, I think it's kind of a show trial, but who knows? I'm not going to burn my family down because of it. But it's driven a stake into me, into my family. And to be accused of turning my back on Charlie and God is pretty rough. But I can handle a lot of shit. And like I said before, Charlie wasn't somebody that I followed in depth, but I knew much about him and I'd seen enough about him. And I knew what he was doing. It was like that. I mean, I don't want to call him a younger brother to me. What am I, 50 and he was like 30 some? But when I saw him as an 18-year-old whippersnapper, which I did, getting out and doing politics, I thought that was back when I hated politics. But I thought he has character. He has principles and he is sticking to them. And I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt, I'm not saying he was sinless in the same way that Jesus was, but he was a close second. As close as we get, I think. And he gave his life for it. And if that doesn't inspire you, nothing will. Are you inspired by the transgender assassins? Assuming that's who did it? Or are you inspired by somebody who wants a better country? Wants more love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control. Those are the fruits of the Spirit. He did well. And the devil has jumped right in the middle of it and said, you know what? I'm going to take this and destroy the right, the MAGA, the future of the country, families, marriages, because this is my new cauldron where I will cook up all the deceptions. My greatest fear, actually, it's not my greatest fear. I feel like I'm already dead and I don't care about dying. I'm not afraid. But that's a different subject for a different time. If you live worried about dying, you ain't living. That's what I'm saying. Just know that you're going to die eventually. So in my eyes, you're already dead. Anybody that's ever been outside the realm of time and space understands how that shit works. Remember the psychedelics we were talking about? Outside the realm of time and space. In my opinion, if it will happen, then it has happened. Am I aware of it? No. But I know I will. I know I will. Unless I'm like Elijah. I would say Lazarus, not Lazarus. Who else was raised from the... Elisha, I would think. Elijah? Anyway. Some people didn't die, apparently. But one person did. And that man was sinless, and that's not Charlie Kirk. But that's what it took to beat death. Because nothing could beat deception, destruction, dissolution, devil, evil. Nothing could beat it. It's too powerful. It rules the world. Except the perfect lamb that was pure. Because God knew that he walked him right into his own trap, the devil, and said, "This is my son, with whom I am pleased. Listen to him." And the devil said, "I fucking hate him. I can't stand him. He's preaching this and that, and he's changing the world, and I hate it. I will battle it to my death, and I will kill him. He will be easy to kill." I had a conversation with him. He didn't really like me. Remember when we stood up on the cliff and I said, "Look at everything in the world. I run it. I will give you this, young man. All of it, if you bow down and worship me." And Jesus, having never cussed, no, I don't think cussing is a sin, obviously. I wouldn't be surprised if Jesus said, "Fuck you, Satan. Get your ass behind me. We ain't doing that. I will never worship you." That's as righteous as it gets. That's probably the most righteous use of the F word I've ever thought of. Fuck you, Satan. Get your ass behind me. You might run the world, but I run reality. And I won't give up on this. I know I have a hard road ahead of me, but I won't falter. I won't fail. I will go to the cross as a pure sacrifice, and in doing so, open the door for any and all who want it. And ladies and gentlemen, if you don't believe it, that's fine. Sure, don't believe it. Just get mad at the priest who raped you. I don't know. Maybe you have all sorts of built-up anxiety about churches and hatred because they offended you or they molested you or whatever. That's not it, though. That's not what it is. Just like the Jews. It was the hope of the Jews for millennia that the Messiah would come through David's blood. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah. And from Judah came the lion. From David came the Son of Man. And they, for millennia, like I said, were prophesying that there would be a Messiah that would set things straight. And it's the faith in that God has our best interest in mind at some point, and that we're in a battle of good and evil, whatever. That would be... Man, I really gotta pee. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was quite the interesting part. Hopefully you went back to the beginning, please, and tell me it made more sense. So yeah, this one was a doozy. We got an hour in. Hopefully I will still be married in a week or two. I'll keep you informed. The outlook is not good. But I'm the kind of guy that says, whatever happens, happens. I don't worry about shit, because if God's not in control, then we're fucked anyway. If he is, then why am I worried? All right, so that's Eyes to See. This is not the Grow Show, and this is not... What's the other one? On Faith and Doubt. Although maybe it should be On Faith and Doubt. But we'll do that at the end of July 31st. In the meantime, you can get a printed copy of this beautiful paper that I wrote today for the low, low price of $99.99. We've talked about the 99s before, haven't we? Don't insult my intelligence. It's not $9.99. It's fucking $10, dummy. You think you can deceive me to think it's cheaper than $10? It's 0.1%. Give me a break. You can't do that. It's relatively the same. Anyway, so yeah, I wish I could sell my papers, but I can't. So I'm going to do something better. I'm going to publish them separately. I'm going to put some of this in some shorts. I think the shorts, that's what YouTube or advice is. It's like, you got to get your shorts out. Nobody gives a fuck about your shows that happen at 11 p.m., 1 a.m. Eastern. I appreciate the handful of trusted viewers that I have in Canada. But as far as the advice goes, you're like not supposed to do it at 11 o'clock, and nobody's going to tune in, and nobody's ever going to, the YouTube algorithm's not going to, especially if you're talking shit like I do, they're not going to suggest you at all. The way you got to do it is do it at 7 or 8 p.m. Put out a bunch of shorts, constantly putting out shorts, and they will lead you to the viewers or whatever. So we're going to do that. And if you want to check out my essays on my videos, the Grow Show essays, I'm working on getting all of those out. And I got to go. Good night. Do not